So Julian, obviously a couple of weeks to Gary's next fight. He's going to be challenging for the English super featherweight title. But without looking beyond this, the one you've got your eye on is the British, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't want to look past Kev Hooper. I think he's an excellent fighter. He's a really good fighter, but I think Sykes is far too much for him. But yeah, we want the British title fight outright. Just so frustrated that 18 months since Gary lost it on a really close decision to Gary Buckland, we're still in the wilderness and there's no sight of an eliminator or anything. And it just feels so frustrating when, one fight away from the Lonsdale belt to take home, that we're still in that position, that we're waiting for some kind of action from the Board of Control.
Do you expect them to make that? I mean, because we've said to Gary before, Buckland's had 2 defences, he only needs 1 more. Gary's had 2 defences, he only needs 1 more.
Absolutely.
Winner takes all?
I mean, the fights are natural. I mean, we know Gary Buckland's a really proud guy. Got a lot of respect for him and his trainer, Tony Borg. And they had an absolute barnstormer last time. Sky kept saying, we want to see Sykes Buckland 3. And why wouldn't you want to make it, winner takes all? I mean, when was the last time you got 2 fighters with 2 successful defences under the belt who could actually both win the Lonsdale belt outright on the same night? I mean, you're a historian, you tell me when it was, I don't know. But what a great fight, what a marketable fight that would be. And Sykes is a better fighter than he was then. He's matured. It's just that no one's seen his best work because it's all been in the gym.
As I said to Gary earlier as well, though, do you think that because there's been 2 fights before and because Buckland's won them both, that's kind of made making a third one more difficult?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think people would say, well, Buckland's beat Sykes twice. Why would we need to prove that he's a better fighter? Because he's already proven that, in Prizefighter and in a 12-round fight. But, things, you've got to look at what kind of competition he's got out there domestically. I mean, he might want to move on to bigger things, Europe or the world, but he's been talking about that for 18 months and it hasn't happened. So why are you waiting around for that? Why do you fight Gary Sykes? I mean, for us, money's not a motivator. It's not about the money. I mean, fighters all spend money. The money will be gone, but the belts and the prestige, and the history, that's forever. So as far as I'm concerned, let's do the fight. We'll do it non-TV for peanuts, for little change. We're not bothered. We just want the fight. We want the belt outright. And Gary Sykes wants to carry on where the 12th round, left off and prove that ultimately against Buckland, who we think is one of the toughest domestic fighters there is a top fighter. But Gary Sykes is tougher, and we know we can outlast him by boxing him again, in a rubber match. So we should do it.
Would it be fair to say as well that times have been a little bit tough since that last fight? Fights falling through, stuff not happening, all went a bit quiet.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a joke now. I mean, even talk to guys like Ed Robinson and they're saying Gary Sykes must be the unluckiest fighter there is. I mean, he's the part of the Who Needs Him club as well, because it's a tough fight for anybody. The Broner fight falling through, it was an absolute heartbreaker. We knew the challenge, but we had it, and we knew we were lucky to get that title fight, but it was still really, really cruel to have it taken away from us. And little's happened since then. I mean, we had a ridiculous situation where the only really thing available to us was Prizefighter, just above the lightweight division. I mean, you can see that Gary Sykes is not a lightweight. We knew that. It was for one night only. But the kid has to earn, the kid has to keep fighting. He needs a challenge. So we moved up. Once again, Gary Sykes stepped up and he almost pulled it off. And I think he's a fighter now who's prepared to fight. He's prepared to fight Broner. He's done 2 prize fighters. He did the first prize fighter when he didn't need to do it. He was an undefeated British champion. Gary Sykes always steps up, and I think Gary Buckland should do exactly the same.
You mentioned Prizefighter there as well, though. Do you think a lot of people were surprised when you went in it again?
I'm sure they were after what happened last time, but fighters are fighters. At the end of the day, I think if you've got that hesitancy in the ring and you're thinking about the 45 seconds, then a boxing ring, you shouldn't be there anyway. Gary just recovered from that, and he was like, look, I want to prove I'm the best. It's not about money. I've said this before, fighters spend money. It's about, I'm from an era when, I was brought up in boxing when we had the Fab Four with Leonard, Hagler, Duran and Earns, and those guys, they fought each other. They continually stepped up. They didn't avoid each other. Like, your top class fighters mentioning no names do this day and age. They fought each other. And I've always encouraged that with Gary. I've always tried to instill that in him, that, as a boxing historian, who's somebody who looks up to fighters who would continually step up to the plate. That's our ethos in this gym. Anywhere, anybody, at any time, we'll step up, we're not bothered. And that's not the trainer being brave, that's the mentality of the fighter as well.
First task, Forbes, March 15th.
I think that's a hard fight. I've been watching Kev Hooper on YouTube, and I've got a couple of DVDs of his fights. I actually like his style. He's a kind of upright kid. He's got a lovely jab. He's got good feet. He's busy. He's got good reflexes. He counters well with the hook. He comes over the top with the right hand. I actually like his style, and I think it's a long night for us. I think that's a 10-round fight away from home, you know, in front of a real sort of partisan Cleethorpes crowd. Gary Sykes has got a really, really hard night, and as you've just seen tonight with the 8 rounds he sparred with Tommy Coyle, we're not taking Kevin Hooper lightly. You know, we're training, and this is not just words. We have trained as hard for this fight as we did prepare for Adrien Broner. We're not underestimating him one bit.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much, Andy. Cheers.